What if we could build our own asset factory? A system where we give it a blueprint, send an order, and create a wide variety of assets with a single click? Sounds pretty cool, right? We won't dive too deep into the graph or the node settings. The goal is to understand how we can build systems that can work for us. So, the graph works like a small asset factory. The first part is our preparation zone. This is where we define the order, how many assets we want, and what kind of base shapes they should have. At this stage, I generate a set of magic shapes, then use parameters and control randomness to make each one slightly different. That gives me a batch of blockout boxes ready to be processed. Then comes the second part of the graph. This is where the blueprint is applied to every blockout, so the whole batch can be transformed into finished asset automatically at the end of the chain. And once everything is set up, I can simply tweak the count or change the global seed to generate a new batch. So I'm not just applying the same exact operation to every single asset. The blueprint gives me the main recipe, but the goal is not to produce the exact same asset every time. By using seed, I can introduce control variation while keeping the same overall logic. You can think of the seed like a tomato seed. It will always produce the same kind of plant, but each plant will grow on its own way. That's exactly the idea here. The blueprint defines the asset family, and the parameters and the seed introduce control variations. So every asset follows the same logic, but with its own differences. Inside the blueprint subnet, we take the block out and build the asset through several separate flows, one for each part. In each one, we start from the blockout mesh and apply a series of procedural steps to shape the part. Just like in a factory production line, where each worker performs a specific task along the chain. Then, at the right moment, we split the process into one branch for the high poly and one for the low poly. It is usually more efficient to do it early, rather than after everything is merged. For example, UVs are often much easier to create during the object's construction, instead of doing it later on a fully combined mesh. To keep things organized, I use naming convention to separate the object, then push the right parts together at the end of the chain and create groups for later access. Once everything is done, we can use the groups to separate the high poly and the low poly meshes for baking. That's the basic idea behind a procedural asset system. It becomes incredibly useful when you need to create a lot of similar assets or when you want to reuse the same setup across different projects. Instead of rebuilding everything from scratch, you can adjust the system by changing a few parameters, and it makes iteration way easier. If you realize later that all your assets need an extra feature, like an handle on every box, you don't have to update them one by one. You update your system, regenerate the assets, and the whole set gets updated. That's what makes this workflow so powerful. It's fast, flexible, and easy to iterate on. But of course, all of that comes with a higher setup cost. Building this kind of system usually takes more time at the beginning than doing things in a more direct way. So you always have to consider whether it is really worth it. If the goal is just to make one asset, it may be overkill. But if you need many similar assets, a system you can reuse, adapt, and update over time, then it becomes extremely valuable. I hope this helped you get a better understanding of how to build procedural asset systems. If you found it useful, feel free to check my other Houdini videos. And if you have any question, just leave a comment below. Thank you for watching and subscribe if you want to see more.